Snowman's Land has surprisingly some of the most notable changes in the entire game when compared to the Nintendo 64 version. And this is ironic because the stage is one of the most forgettable experiences for me, especially on the Nintendo 64. When you first enter the course, it basically looks the exact same as the OG, and as you run through the stars, you might not even notice any differences at all until you get to the one in the ice sculpture at the beginning of the stage, or the stars that require you to enter the igloo, or even earlier if you figure out there's an owl here. It's a good thing Snowman's big head is the first star because I wager most people collected the star before figuring out there was an owl and using that to cheese it. Otherwise, that would entirely defeat the purpose of that star. I think the owl is a bad inclusion for this stage, and they didn't really need it at all, but we'll get back to that. The inside of the igloo has completely changed its appearance, and the challenge has changed as well. It's no longer about maneuvering around walls of ice, and now it's about a challenge geared towards navigating the narrow platforms and freezing water. There are also now 2 stars in this area, with one of them being the new star. And no, it's not a Switch star, nor is even a Silver Star challenge, although that does still exist in the stage, and I'll get to that. Basically, one of the 2 stars in the igloo is the new one, and I'll let you guys decide which one it is. The first one requires you to grab the invisible cap and quickly run across and drop through the mesh to collect the star. That's almost the exact same challenge as it was in the 64 version, but it's a bit more in your face and less claustrophobic. You're still on a timer since you have to get there before the invisibility expires, which means you'll need to make sure you're jumping properly and not wasting time falling into the water. The second star in the igloo is the red coin star. Basically, work your way around these small platforms and in some cases even under the water to grab all 8 red coins from inside the igloo. It's a moderate challenge at best, but a fun use of the igloo regardless. And you might tell me that the old red coin star was better, and you'd be right, but that star isn't completely gone. It has instead been replaced by the requirement to collect 5 silver stars. I'm okay with this as the silver stars are on the same paths as the red coins, but there are just 3 less this time. I wouldn't call it an improvement though, it's just a change. Actually, that's kind of how I feel about this stage in general. The owl being included should defeat the purpose of the first star, but also doesn't because you can't grab it for the first star objective. So a player would have to get into Snowman's Land, grab a separate and easier star like defeating the big bully or heading into the ice sculpture behind you, and then going back into the stage with selecting those missions, and you'd be able to use the owl to fly up and drop down on the snowman's head. The thing is, nobody's doing that, not on a first time playthrough anyway. They're going to climb the snowman the exact way it was done on the 64, with maybe Luigi's backflip slightly making it easier. But then, what is the point of the owl here? Is it to get around the stage without walking? It's a small stage and would actually take less time to just walk over there. There's more or less no reason to get on top of the snowman's head after you get that star. The only thing I can think of is if a player doesn't know they can use Luigi's backflip and they need to access the igloo, then this owl might help you with that, but that's such an obscure thing. This isn't just a bad inclusion, it's pointless. Why would you add the owl? Why did you need to change the inside of the igloo? Why did you need to change the red coins to silver stars? Honestly, in playing Snowman's Land DS, I have more questions than I have answers. The ice sculpture didn't need to be adjusted just to have you use Yoshi's fire breath. It was already a good star in the original. If you wanted to add an extra star in the igloo, you could have made its layout a bit more dynamic, and hid 5 Yoshi fire breath requiring ice blocks with silver stars inside them around the igloo. I struggle to see any value in all of the changes in the stage, and I also struggle to see them absolutely ruin the level. And for some strange reason, that angers me more than I care to admit. Like, if you're going to change a stage, make it at least have a purpose. I'm going to go with the Nintendo 64 version for the stage, and there's really only one main reason why I prefer that one, and it's because I prefer the deep freeze star over Yoshi's ice sculpture. But I'm so on the fence about this one that by the time this video is uploaded, I might change my mind. It's just so uncanny how irrelevant the changes to this course were. And if you're a remake made 8 years after an original, that's an indictment in and of itself. Yeah, I'm picking Nintendo 64, that's final. Also, Luigi's backflip breaks 4 stars in this stage, 3 of which alone are because accessing the area of the green shell used to be a single shot attempt, but now his backflip completely breaks that pretty notable intended way to get over the wall. But that's enough of that though. The next 5 stages are all top stages for me, so I'm excited to take another look at those, starting with Wet Dry World. The DS portrait for Wet Dry World looks like it belongs in a Sonic the Hedgehog game. Much like many other areas in the DS, the model of the Skeeter was updated to be more in line with the image Nintendo was transitioning to by the time the handheld launched. But the old one has the aura.
He said it! He said it!
I don't mind either one, as I feel the first one fits the vibe better, but the second one looks better, so I'm pretty split. Thankfully, nothing's really altered in the vibe when you're actually inside the stage. It still has the same skybox background that everyone theorizes about, and speaking of which, that backdrop is actually an altered photo from a city called Shabam in Yemen, and the building at the top is the Mosque of Muhammad Ali from Cairo. Make of that information what you will. I actually have almost nothing to say about Wet Dry World. It's basically identical to the original version. The added objective was a 5 silver star collecting star, and a big part of me wants to say that it's not a good addition because you already have the 5 secret star, so it's just another searching gimmick. Only this time what you're searching for is much bigger and visible on the map. I prefer the silver star hunt to the 5 secret star, but I think both of them existing in this stage, specifically in this section of the stage, is a little bit pointless. Also, having a map available doesn't change a thing. Many of the stars in the stage are visible just by looking around, and are fairly obvious of where to go regardless. And the stage is also so small that a map has less of a purpose here. The shocking arrows, top of the town, and the lift star may show a star on the map, but you could easily go towards these stars without looking at the map because it's kind of obvious. Meanwhile, the red coin star and the 5 secret star don't really change at all outside of the guidance from the pink bomb, but once again that red coin challenge is just as accomplishable without getting a hint on the map, and if anything, getting that hint might actually slow you down. I'm sort of stuck on this one. I don't see a benefit or a flaw in having the map. The stage pretty much looks and plays the exact same way, and while I like the silver stars being included, I dislike the fact that 5 secret star and the silver stars challenge both exist in the same area, because it makes it a bit redundant. I want to call this a tie, but nobody likes ties, so I'm going to break a rule and have Luigi's backflip determine this one. His backflip alters the stage quite a bit. In the 2 stars that require you to swim to the hidden town, you can use his backflip to get to the entrance without raising the water level from the entry into the stage, or without using a cannon. He can backflip past the shocking lifts, although technically even in the original a long jump can do that, so I won't count that one against him. Moving upwards in the top of the town becomes laughably easier, and just his general ease of verticality breaks a lot of the challenge here. For my tally, I'm only counting 3 stars because those are the ones he actually breaks. But for determining which stage I prefer, I like that 64DS is more accessible. I think it makes the game a lot more enjoyable, and in many instances, it just makes the game more bearable. I think even in this stage, having Luigi help with his platforming makes it less frustrating to get through, and for many that grew up on the DS, they probably have better memories of the stage as a result. I don't mind Luigi's help with the platforming, but what I do mind is that his verticality kind of removes the main gimmick of the stage. His ability to jump and hover everywhere allows players to skip the adjustment of the water too many times for my liking. And with removing the need to adjust the water, players might never figure out the height of the jump in the portrait changes the water level to get inside the stage. And that is a huge deciding factor for me. And unfortunately for the remake, that means I'm giving this one to Nintendo 64. It's close, very close, and I'll still enjoy the DS version and even enjoy breaking all of the challenges with Luigi. But ultimately, I think the primary enjoyment I found in this stage was going through the challenges and learning to solve the puzzle. And I'm incapable of removing that aspect of my experience while looking at the DS version. So yeah, this one's a point for the OG version. But that's enough monkeying around. Let's now head to the monkeys around Tall Tall Mountain. Tall Tall Mountain's only notable visual change is once again in the portrait used to enter the stage. And it's not even that much of a change, and you might not even notice it if you're not looking for it. It's the same shot but with a different angle and better quality. It's like one of those memes where you're like, how I remember something I looked as a child, and how it actually looked when I was a child. Honestly, I could apply that whole conundrum to 90% of the minor changes that occurred across both stages of these games. I started noticing it when I was doing the original. There were many moments while I was working on those videos where I was certain something was different and it looked odd, only to realize it's because I was mistaking a model for the DS version with the 64 version. I guess my memories just overlapped. And please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that I thought something was different because of personalizations and auras and dreams and whatever. I'm saying it was different because I thought this guy looked like this. Anyway, this will be fun because there are quite a few changes to the stage that I imagine many people would consider improvements, since this course was pretty disliked on the original. The new star here is pretty fun. It's 5 secret stars similar to the one from Bob-omb Battlefield where you have to grab a wing cap and fly around and move through the rings of coins, collecting the coins in the middle. A really good addition for multiple reasons. First, it's just all around a fun challenge to undergo. And second, it adds a flying red cap to this course which makes the traversal around the stage so much more enjoyable for many players. Like, think about what you can do with a wing cap in Tall Tall Mountain if you're unable to reach a specific star or if you're struggling with a platform. And since the wing cap is all the way at the top of the mountain and has a limited usability window, you can't completely rely on it to cheese and ruin the entire stage. So in general, this star alone is a good addition to the stage. Tall Tall Mountain also got the owl treatment, and my god was this needed. While I think the added benefit of getting better with Mario's control through repeated challenges still prevails and is important, I also understand that about the 5th time a player goes up the mountain, that conversation starts to lose a little bit of value, especially on repeat playthroughs. The DS version of Tall Mountain having an owl not only is a quality of life improvement, but it allows the stage to age better. And before anyone argues the owl defeats all of the challenge, the owl doesn't show up in the first star. You have to work your way all the way up the mountain the old-fashioned way for the first one, so a player will still get the full mountain climbing experience. But when they return for the second star, they can take the owl up to the monkey cage, or the owl up to the secret slide, or the owl up to the view from the bridge. And when you get up there, there'll still be more to do, so it's not like the owl makes it so that every one of those stars now becomes the exact same challenge. It just skips a lot of the repeated challenges that you'd have already previously faced. Plus, now for most stars, if a player wanted to, they can grab the owl, take that up, grab a wing cap, and head back down to whichever star they want to grab. The stage now has the ability to do a lot of experimentation, but since you still have that first star that's a pure linear platforming challenge up the mountain, I think the experimentation is a fun addition. In the same way the Nintendo 64 version taught you how to control Mario through repeated platforming challenges and alternate routes up the tall mountain, this version allows you a chance to really learn the stage and learn how to experiment with the different aspects of the stage. But it also still has the original challenge if a player doesn't figure out the owl or isn't comfortable enough utilizing the flying wing cap. Overall, I'd say these challenges are inarguably for the better. There was a mesh added to the area outside of the star after the slide, which now means a player can't rely on the slide for coins towards 100 coins. But now that you have 25 or so coins in the sky, you don't really need to rely on the slide. I think it's actually easier to complete the 100 coin challenge as a result. Plus, there are all these minor things to consider that are improvements. Yoshi's tongue grab can make it easier to get a hold of the monkey, Yoshi and Luigi's flutters can make it easier to grab red coins on the mushrooms, Mario's wing cap can make it easier to fly to the lonely mushroom. Heck, you can still skip the slide altogether like you did in 64 if you turn into Luigi while he's invisible. Actually, back to the lonely mushroom, you also have the owl as an option or Luigi's backflip, which would be similar to using Fly Guy here in the original game. The only change that might have actually made any of the stars in the stage harder is that they added a black block for the breathtaking view from the bridge star, so now a player is required to use Wario to bust that open. But they also added a bridge walkway right up to the star, so getting in there is a lot easier. Don't get it twisted though. This stage can and will still provide a good amount of challenge related to platforming. It is by no means a broken stage that was washed out and ruined because of these additions. It still provides a good endgame challenge, but now it's a lot less of a steep spike to get to those challenges. The 64 version is harder, yes, and I can see why some might prefer that, but I don't think the DS version is so much easier that you can consider it a joke. At least that's how I view it. They took it from hard and frustrating to just hard. Aside from that, there's the coin pattern that makes the entrance to the secret slide a lot more obvious, which again was a much needed improvement because so many players probably didn't even know there was a slide there from how obscurely it was hidden. And finally, the map only shows the location of like half the stars when you enter the stage, and the stars that are highlighted on the map aren't really helped that much by the map because it's a vertical stage and a flat map, so the Z-axis is a bit too confusing to figure out. I know it's obvious, but hands down, this one goes to the DS for me. What more could I say to convince you if I haven't already? And in regards to Luigi, this stage is like a jungle gym for him. He breaks the lonely mushroom star so easily that it becomes a joke. The red coin challenge isn't even a challenge anymore with him, and since scaling the entire mountain becomes drastically easier with him and his backflip, I'll say he breaks the first star as well. The remaining stars can be broken in so many different ways, with different characters and mechanics, that I don't really think it's fair to single out his backflip. But that's 3 stars in this stage that I think his backflip actually breaks. It's a vertical stage after all, so that makes sense to me. Anyway, I think this might have been my longest segment. Let's head over to Tiny Huge Island and see what the handheld port has done to that place.